I hung out with Danny Bonaducci at a bar in California. Delin, you were there, right?
No, that was the other wife.
Oh.
Hey, did you ever see that movie? Did you ever see that movie? Did you ever see that movie?
Showtime. Welcome to Hey, did you ever see that movie? I'm your host, Des, and as always, I'm joined by my replicant co-host, Delin.
Time to die.
Hey, joining us again, the podcaster with 1,000 potions, Mikki.
Hey, guys.
And last but not least, the podcaster, packing heat, Tony T.O.
They don't advertise for killers in the newspaper.
Okay. This week
Might
we
have
will
to edit that one, sorry. Damn. Slipping on my own lines here.
Slippity slip. This week we will be discussing the 1982 sci-fi movie Blade Runner, directed by the great Ridley Scott, based on Philip K. Dick's groundbreaking novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? It stars Harrison Ford, the great Rutger Hauer, the beautiful Sean Young, Edward James Olmos. As always, this podcast will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it, then come back and listen to the podcast. And now, it is time for some facts. Okay. I do have one fact on this. So, Harrison Ford and Ridley Scott, they fought like cats and dogs during the filming of this movie over artistic choices. Harrison Ford really didn't want to do this movie. And they especially fought over...
It shows.
Yeah, they also especially fought over whether to include the end narration by Harrison Ford, which he admits that he purposely butchered in hopes that Ridley Scott wouldn't use it. It wasn't in the version I watched today, but I have heard it, and it's really bad. You know, and I guess in that moment, he knew what humanity was. It was bad. Wasn't in the version I saw today, so I personally like it better without it. Also, Harrison Ford and Sean Young hated each other during the shooting of this movie to the point that the crew called their big love scene the big hate scene. Mm-hmm. And finally, Sean Young claimed Ridley Scott wanted to date her, and when she refused his advances, he started treating her like shit on set. So this movie was shot drenched in bad blood and negative vibes.
She's a fucking whack-a-mole, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably for the best because she is a complete psychotic.
Okay. Dylan, do you have any facts on this?
Yeah, so while we're talking about Psycho Sean Young, we can discuss the fact that she was supposed to be Vicky Vale in Batman, and she got hurt. I think it might have been a horse riding accident. I'm not exactly sure, but she got hurt doing something and couldn't be Vicky Vale. So then, of course, when that movie was a huge success and she missed out on it, she set her sights on playing Catwoman, and she didn't get the role and freaked out and showed up somewhere where Tim Burton was like dressed like Catwoman and made a big scene. And it was very embarrassing and very weird. And she bad talked a bunch of people that were, attached to the project. And it kind of ended up getting her blackballed for a while there because she just really, she really kind of went over the edge on this.
Didn't she go on like Letterman or something too in the Catwoman outfit?
So.
And
I think so.
She was just like she had like convinced herself that she was getting that part, and she just went all over and like, you're acting like a moron right now.
Yeah. Mikki, she totally
quite frankly,
did that.
Michelle Pfeiffer is the best Catwoman I've ever seen. So sorry. Yeah. I made the right call there.
Do you guys have any facts on this, Mikki, Tony?
I don't.
Okay. How about some opening thoughts? I'll get it started. So I saw this movie opening weekend in the theater for the first time when I was 12 years old. I saw it with my father on summer vacation, and I fell in love with it immediately. 12 years old, I totally got it. I totally loved it. I was like infatuated with the character of Pris. Like even at 12 years old, I'm like, this is a fucking beautiful woman. Like, I think we got home from the theater and I immediately grabbed the Sears catalog and ran to the bathroom. So I loved it. But
Really?
did it?
The Sears catalog?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Sears had a wonderful women's
Lingerie section?
underwear, lingerie, and I tell you, they got pretty racy with those pictures.
I wish
back in
the viewers could
early
see Delin right
70s.
now.
Seriously, my yaya had a stack of these fucking, like, whatever they were, Sears, Macy's, whatever's at the mall at the time. She had the stacks of these fucking catalogs. Like, these were like actual books, like they were thick.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and I just, they were like Playboys to me when I was like 12 years old. I'm like,
You got to
This is-
make do with the
Yeah.
lemons. You make lemonade. I
Yes.
gotcha.
this is as good as it got. Lynn, when was the first time you saw this movie?
So I don't think I saw this until the 90s. I think that it was, part of like my Rocky Horror type thing. Like you start catching up on all the movies you didn't catch earlier. And I was definitely a little bit more prepared to understand the movie being a little older. And there was definitely parts of it where I didn't quite get it. Like I was like, I don't understand even what's happening because probably I was watching it with 20 people. But since then, I've seen it a billion times and it still holds up. If you ask me, like if I saw this today out in the movie theater, I don't think I'd realize when it was shot. So, that's well done.
I literally, like with the original stars, would not change one fucking hand-painted perfect frame of this movie.
Agree.
Like no blue screen, no CGI, nothing. This movie is fucking sexy as fuck. Tony, what is your experience with Blade Runner before preparing for this podcast?
Very similar to Delin. I did not see it when it came out. I saw it maybe 10 years later, which I think was probably good because when I was younger, although I saw Star Wars and a few other sci-fi style movies, I don't think I was quite ready to handle Blade Runner because of the idea that it is definitely not a 12-year-old movie. It's definitely you gotta have a little bit more to your mental substance to really enjoy it. But I think it held up really, really well. So there you go.
Mikki, talk about it.
I don't remember when I saw this, to be honest with you. I think it was probably the late 80s, early 90s. I was telling Tony last night when we were watching it. One of the things that stood out for me, was even if you didn't see the opening credits, you would know that it was Vangelis doing the score.
Yeah.
It's just such a unique sound.
Trademark.
And one of the things that always was like really embedded into my brain from this movie was the geisha on the side of the building going like eating the whatever she was eating.
Pill.
I will never forget that. Like there's certain things about movies that I won't forget. And for some reason, like that's good advertising apparently, because I can't forget that. And I just remember, God, I love Rutger Hauer in this. He was just so fucking
Steals
cool
the movie.
and badass. And just, oh my God, I wanted to hang out with him so bad. And I remember
I always liked the bad boys, Mick.
Daryl Hannah, I think this was like her first kind of like bad girl / gritty role that she ever did. I think this was her first one. And then I know like JF Sebastian I thought was very endearing, but they did such a really good job. And like even Edward James Olmos, like I told Tony, I can't see him, I don't care what he's in, without thinking of the movie Wolfen, because he was in Wolfen. I don't know if you guys ever saw that with Albert Finney.
Everybody has that confused look on their face because I had the same one when she told me the story.
It was actually really cool. It takes place in like New York, and it's like about like shapeshifters, and it's actually kind of cool. But I just remember Edward James almost like running around naked in it, like for some reason. But like,
Got some deep-seated stuff you want to talk about later, Mick?
I know.
Okay.
So yeah, but I thought this movie. I just remember it being really cool, and I've seen it several times since the first time I saw it. But I just remember like that, just being blown away at how like ahead of its time it was. You know,
And timeless at the same time.
And it's like very basic. There's no CGI, but it was really so well done and so cool for when it came out.
I
Even
think
now.
this was done, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows, but I think this was done with the same kind of paint on glass thing that they were
Yes.
using Yeah, I was gonna
These are
say, I
hand
think,
painted scenes.
yeah.
And, Ridley Scott said that, he had a handful of scenes that he really fell in love with. And he said what he would do is he would flip things upside down and he would shoot them from different angles. So he would use the same set, the same scene several times, but just shot from different angles. And like I said, sometimes just flipping the entire thing upside down would just make it look different.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I noticed that. So at the very beginning of the movie, there's that scene with him at the noodle stand, and there's the dragon and the tongue, and it's going beep burp, and it's making a noise. And later on in the movie, he's just in like a random alleyway, and there's the sign beep burp beep. I'm like, but that's not the noodle stand. But clearly, he loved it so much, he was just like, oh, let's use that again. That was really good.
Like Tyrell's office and Tyrell's bedroom. Same set. They just take out all the furniture and switch it with different furniture and shoot it from a different angle because he loved the way it looks so much. So, this movie, Blade Runner, and Saturday Night Fever. 3 movies I saw when I shouldn't have seen them, and I didn't understand any of the movies, but I knew that I loved the way this looked. I knew that I loved the way the Road Warrior looked, even though I didn't understand the stories. And I knew that fucking disco dancing was cool. I'm like, oh, I want to disco dance. So, yeah. That was
Des, I'm sorry, but you just lost like 10 points right there because disco dancing was never cool.
Oh, it was in 77.
You've seen Stripes, right?
Yes.
Judge Reinhold, or is it Judge Reinhold? I don't know. The character that wears the sweatshirt when he's in trouble and it says "Death Before Disco." There's nothing better than that right there.
So good. Great movie.
Although I was thrilled to see your friend Frank Stallone out in a new series on cable television. So
the family Stallone.
That's it.
We're
should be real entertainment. Boy.
Look how rich we are. Okay.
Well, Sly's got a lot of anti-woke concepts apparently now. I don't know if he just kirked out or what, but apparently they fled California because it's too weird.
Yeah, everything's strange right now.
Whatever.
Okay, we're close to Blade Runner in California. Let's do the Fast Five. I mean, San Francisco is now Dawn of the Dead, so.
Right. Good point.
Right, Fast Five, Sitcom Showdown this week. We're going to do Sitcom Showdown, and this is going to be theme songs from our favorite sitcoms, and you're just going to tell me which theme song was better. So here we go. Number 1, Three's Company or The Greatest American Hero. Mikki, which theme song is better?
Believe it or not, Greatest American Hero, man.
Okay, and Tony.
Three's Company, far and away. Come and knock on our door. We've been waiting for you.
So good. Still in.
I'm gonna go with Greatest American Hero just because I liked it better than Three's Company as a show. That's all.
Great,
so hard.
But the tiebreaker is that George Costanza used it for his answering machine in a Seinfeld episode, where he goes, "Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Where could I be? Believe it or not, I'm not home." It's fucking great.
I still sing that
terrible.
to this day. So I still sing that theme song to this day.
So that is your credit.
That's not saying much, Shug, but I love you anyway, okay?
Number 2, Happy Days or Laverne and Shirley. Mikki, which one is better?
Shit. I might have to go with Happy Days.
No.
And Tony, which one is better?
Laverne and Shirley.
Angelin.
I don't want to choose. I like them both. I like them both. I'm going to go with Laverne and Shirley just because Shamil Shamazel is awesome. So
That's
stupid. I love it.
And the fact that the great Weezer used Happy Days for their first video is the tiebreaker. The correct answer is Happy Days. Okay. And number 3, The Jeffersons or Good Times. Mikki, which is a better song?
Jeffersons.
And Tony.
We're not married anymore. It's Good Times. Jesus, woman.
And Delin.
It's Good Times.
Yeah, the correct answer is Good Times. That's some dark, edgy shit for a half-hour sitcom. Oh, my
Hell
God.
yeah.
Wow, they really paint a picture with that fucking theme song, don't they?
I
Right.
don't even know if I remember the good times.
Shit, I'm
It's
leaving.
a credit rip-off. Good time. Okay. The Brady Bunch or the Partridge Family. Mikki, which is a better song?
You know what? I need you to sing them, Des, because I don't remember them.
It's a story of a man named Brady.
Okay.
It was okay. And then the Partridge Family is It's not
Oh,
a
Partridge Family.
And a baby singing. We do it happy feeling when we're baby bow. Dan Tony, which one is better?
I'm going with Brady Bunch.
Andalin.
Partridge Family.
It's the Partridge Family. Come on. It's not even close.
They were actually a
And-
band.
Yes.
Yeah, they were
And-
terrible.
Well,
Okay,
so,
they were
so
terrible.
were the Brady kids. They were the Silver
Danny
Platters.
Bonaducci was not really playing anything. Don't lie. He's not skilled.
I hung out with Danny Bonaducci at a bar in California. Delin, you were there, right?
No, that was the other wife.
Oh.
I hate it when my wife says that stuff.
Hate
Come on.
when that happens on Dysfunctional Date Night. Okay.
There were only 2 others. What's the big deal?
Just kidding.
Okay.
You're one other.
Number 5. And it's funny because this one is Silver Spoons or Different Strokes, 2 very similar stories. Children coming from nothing and becoming rich. Mickey, which one is better?
Yeah, Different Strokes.
Okay. Tony.
Strokes.
Delin.
The Strokes. No, the Different Strokes.
I'm stroking out as well. Let's go
Yeah,
for it.
it's a stroke all day. Okay. Oh man, that was quite. I mean, we've been recording for an hour, so let's get into the movie.
I started it early. We probably were rolling for a good 5-10 minutes before we started going.
I'm gonna fucking hatchet that thing down to size. Okay. Let me give you guys a synopsis.
Please do.
Oh, he did it
Wow,
again.
that was really really well done.
Let me give you guys a box office with a budget of $30 million and a box office gross of $41 million worldwide. This movie was considered moderate success. All right, let me give you the synopsis here.
Are you sure?
Yes, a Blade Runner must pursue a terminate
A what?
for replicants.
Wow.
What?
Do you want me to
okay,
read it?
Okay, no, hang on. Okay, I got it.
Too many gummies.
A Blade Runner must pursue and terminate 4 replicas who stole a ship in space and have returned to Earth to find their creator.
Let's just remind everyone that this is why I read now and not him.
Oh, can you imagine going through this with me fucking at the wheel? Holy
No,
I
shit.
will say I was very proud of Des because he read off the cast and didn't fuck up one name.
It's only because it
We
was all
only
names
read
you knew.
4 people, so
Yeah.
come on.
4 very recognizable names. Okay.
All right, let's get
go.
into it. So the beginning here is going to be a little long just because I'm going to go through the text scroll and then I'm going to get into the scene. So just bear with me for a second. All right. So a text crawl after the opening credits explains that in the near future, the technology that created synthetic humans has entered the Nexus phase. Replicants, sophisticated androids that are virtually identical to humans, are now superior in strength and at least equal in intelligence to their creators. Replicants are designed and built by the Tyrell Corporation, a giant multi-conglomerate headquartered in 2 pyramid-like towers. The latest and most advanced version of the replicant technology is the Nexus 6 model. Replicants are mostly used as slaves for manual labor on the off-world colonies out in space. Following a violent mutiny by replicants in one of those colonies, the androids were outlawed on Earth. Specialized police units called Blade Runners are charged with the difficult task of detecting replicants who have illegally come to Earth. If found, replicants are executed, which is not considered murder, but euphemistically called retirement. The opening title sets the story in Los Angeles in November 2019. LA and the surrounding areas have become heavily industrialized, crowded with people, and rain falls constantly. Apart from ground traffic, there are personal flying vehicles called spinners soaring through the sky. At the Tyrell Corporation, a Blade Runner named Holden is interviewing a new employee using a special device called a Voight-Kampff analyzer. The machine is designed to detect any physical responses in the test subject in response to questions that are deliberately meant to affect the subject emotionally. After a few questions, the man is being tested. Leon Kowalski becomes obviously agitated and eventually hostile, shooting Holden. I know the first time that Des and I talked about this. So we did Blade Runner as our first test podcast, and it was fucking terrible. Like embarrassing. Yes. But one of the things that we did talk about when we did it was how did this guy sneak a gun that powerful in, like to blow him through the freaking dividing wall? It's like, it's crazy.
It was tiny. The wall was like the gun was tiny.
How could no tiny gun can push somebody back like that? And
Did you
push
see
Yeah,
it
through a
had
think
six?
wall?
that-
It had 6 barrels on it.
No, it had one, but
No, it had
it's called
6.
artistic license. It's for effect.
No,
It's
if
got
you
nothing
look
to
at
do.
the
Tony, can we discuss the firearms, please?
If you'd
if you-
like.
if you look at the barrel of the gun, it's got 6 barrels in one barrel. It's a futuristic gun that packs a punch.
It's like the cricket or whatever it is in Men in Black.
Exactly. It's the cricket in Men in Black. So Ridley Scott put the word wall over a black screen instead of over the opening shot, because when he saw the opening shot, it looked more amazing than he could have imagined. Because he was actually really worried because the models they used for this were all under 3 feet tall. They looked tiny. When he was showing the models, it was like Stonehenge and Spinal Tap. He was like, "That's it? This is the city?" And they were like, "Yeah, but I mean, since they built it so small, they were able to build it like really complete instead of just like one side or 2 sides." And then the hand painting and the fire, and just it was amazing. The eyeball was actually meant to represent Big Brother watching over us. You know, a lot of people are like, "Is it Rachel? Is it Holden? You know, who is this? What is it?" Nope, it's just meant to be a symbol of Big Brother watching.
Interesting.
So when Leon is with Holden, they're doing this test. Really great like builds here. And Holden starts asking him about the turtle. And you know, you can see Leon's eyes twitching, and then the heartbeat starts coming and doom, 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 doom. And you're like, oh, he's gonna fucking just attack. And then Scott does this really brilliant thing where he has Holden say, in response to your inquiry, they're questions. They're just questions to provoke a response, and you feel all that pressure just dissipate. And you're like, all right, they're going to go on with the question. He goes, "Tell me about your mother." And he just gets lit up. And I love that. I thought this was really great opening scene.
I think there's a lot of people that have that reaction when you ask them to tell them about your mother.
Yeah, especially me. Tony, what do you got on these opening scenes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that cheap kids joke where everything goes, well, what about your mother? It's almost like that's how you pick a fight in the first place. Just ask about somebody's mother and, make it in an offhand way. And, you're going to get punched in the face or in this case, shot, through the chest several times. So that's how that goes. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's the kind of thing too, where you can almost see reality building on his face. Breon James, the actor, does a great job of first he's confused, then he becomes angry, then he's always making a supposition in his head. What is this about? Are these the questions? Did you start? Well, and he's constantly asking for detail that aren't really important to the whole point of the thing. So you get the feeling that this is not a replicant because of the fact that he's very human based in his emotions. But it's the kind of thing where, obviously that goes awry pretty quickly.
Yeah, I thought the actor did a really nice job of not overplaying the robot angle. And it could have got so campy if these actors hadn't, found that perfect line to strut. Mikki, what did you think of the opening scenes?
I agree with you guys. It's funny because I just remember even the first time I saw this thinking it was well done. It was just so dreary. And I know that's the effect that it meant to have. Like, it's almost like when you watch Handmaid's Tale now, it's like always in the winter, it's dreary. You know what I mean? It's just really, it kind of makes you just kind of like, ugh, you know what I mean? Which I think really goes to show how shitty life is on Earth then. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a shithole. And it's funny, for some reason, I didn't even realize until watching it last night that the guy interviewing him was a Blade Runner. Like, I just thought he was just a guy interviewing them. And then we had to rewind it a couple times, and then Tony said something, and I'm like, oh my God, he is a Blade Runner. Like, I don't know why I didn't catch that the first 10 times I saw the movie. But,
Right.
But it was just, and that guy that played Leon, I know I've seen him in other stuff, but he was like the right amount of like doofus. Like, And I think it said his intelligence level was like a C or a D or something.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
laborer.
because he's all strength.
He's
Yeah.
a laborer.
Yeah. So I just thought it was really cool how they did that with him, you know, like why would I what's a tortoise? What's a tortoise? You know, why would I put a turtle on its back? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because that's something honestly that someone would ask. Like, well, why would I put a tortoise? You know what I mean? So I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I loved it. And, you know, the stylistic look of this movie, every single scene. I mean,
Yeah.
even this office at the Tyrell Corporation with the Tyrell name on these incredible leather chairs. And, they nailed it. They fucking nailed it. Good.
All right. So Rick Deckard, a former Blade Runner, is eating at a Japanese noodle stand when he's arrested by a detective named Gaff. He's taken to police headquarters and brought to Deckard, his old boss. Bryant tells Deckard that there are 4 skin jobs, the derogatory term for replicants, loose on the streets, and he needs Deckard to retire them. Deckard suggests giving the job to Holden, but Bryant says that they already did. He can breathe okay as long as nobody unplugs him. Ugh. Deckard is not interested, and he tries to leave, but Bryant successfully pressures him into accepting with a very thinly veiled threat. They watch footage of Leon's VK test as Bryant explains that 6 replicants murdered a bunch of people on a shuttle and came to Earth. 2 of them died when attempting to break into the Tyrell Corporation. The other 4 survived and disappeared. Suspecting that they might try to infiltrate the corporation, Holden was asked to test the new employees and nearly died after identifying one. It is unknown why they're attempting to get into Tyrell. Bryant shows Deckard their files. The leader is Roy Batty, the most advanced and intelligent of the group. The others are Zora, Pris, and Leon, the replicant who shot Holden. Bryant also tells Deckard that although the Nexus 6s are designed without emotions, they're believed to be advanced enough to develop them within a few years, including hate and anger. As a fail-safe device, the scientists have designed the Nexus 6s to only have a 4-year lifespan. So, me personally, I love how Deckard is just so fucking done to the point that when he gets quote unquote arrested, he's in Gaff's car with this little bowl of noodles and he's like eating. He just gives 0 fucks.
Yeah. The problem with this character is that you can tell Harrison Ford gives 0 fucks to about this movie. And he comes in and out of focus. I mean, he's a great actor, so of course he's going to have great scenes. But it's so mailed in. And I watched this scene about 5 times to make sure I wasn't imagining it. So the very first time we see Deckard, he's sitting reading a newspaper, waiting for a chair to open up at the noodle stand. And he is giving the camera the finger. He's holding the newspaper with his middle finger out like this, and he's waving it back and forth. And this is not an accident. He is doing this to Ridley Scott, and it's filmed that way, and it will be there forever. Go watch it if you want to see. You'll be like, holy shit, he's flipping the camera off. Edward James Olmos, he created the language called City Speak. He created it out of a mix of French, Spanish, Celtic, and English, among other languages. He wanted to give it a feeling like Earth was now like this really cultural place. He also opted to have 2 different colored eyes, so he could be kind of like, looking like just like a mix of different races, which I thought was really cool. This street scene, amazing. We get the neon, we get the rain, like Mikki was saying. We get this Hong Kong, like dark feel with this amazing signs, like the dragon with the tongue. At this noodle stand, you'll see this girl. She's got half bleach blonde and half jet black hair, and we get these punks and these umbrellas.
I want my umbrella with the fucking light on it.
These umbrellas with these light sticks on it. And I mean, this is what set the bar for cyberpunk. This is it. This is the OG, the granddaddy. There's a game called Lo-Fi that is basically Blade Runner. I mean, there's a bunch of them. The spinner car, in my opinion, magical. It's magical. It looked so good. Even the shots where they're obviously lifting it up with a crane and just, blowing some dry ice out the bottom of it.
I wanted one of those.
2 fog machine propulsion system.
I loved it. I fucking loved it. Didn't bother me at all. I thought the car looked great. I thought the cops with their fucking leather and this like light up orange goggles. And oh man, it even looked better than like what they tried to do with Judge Dredd 35 years later.
Yeah. It's funny too, because there's a part, and it's not here, but there's a part where Decker's walking through somewhere and there's 2 cops. There's a cop that's like just standing there with his helmet on. And then there's a cop that's in like I can't even describe it. It's like a juice box. He's standing in a juice box. It's got a little yellow screen and he's in there and it says police at the top. So clearly like he's like a police call box, but it's like he's just a dude in a box.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
So
But like
I
it was creative, I thought, if nothing else.
I always wondered why Bryant was so hot to have Deckard hunt down these replicants, though. And it's not ever made, I don't think, 100% clear what Zora's date is. And I know that Leon does ask, when was I born? How long do I have to live? You know, he tells him 4 years. But it seemed to me basically like they could have waited these replicants out. Like it seemed like they all had at best like a month to live left, you know. But I mean, in Pris and Roy's case, way less. Like these two had like literally 4 days to live. Why not just beef up security at Tyrell? Just keep the police, you know, high alert, and just let these things fucking drop dead in 4 days. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. It was just a question I've always had. Like, you know, that Bryant had the case files on all of these replicants, including Rachel, and he knew their incept dates. So he knew they were getting ready to die. He could have said to fucking, even if Zora and the other one was going to live a little longer, he could have said, hey, listen, you don't really have to go after fucking Roy. This guy's going to be a bitch. He'll probably tear your head off. He's going to die in like 48 hours. So I just avoid him. I don't know. Tony? What do you think?
I think that actually builds to the concept, and you raise a really good point, but I think it builds to the concept that if you believe that Deckard is actually a replicant,
he is.
The idea that it's his job to fail, not to succeed. And it's for Roy to kill him because they know that Roy isn't going to make it much longer anyway. And that's why it's impressive to the concept that Roy keeps saying, where are you going? Why don't you stay? You know, and he's very glib and happy and he's dancing around. And Deckard's like, holy fuck, I'm going to get, you know, my ass ripped apart by this guy because he's wicked strong and incredibly, you know, skilled. And I'm hanging on here by a thread. And, you know, even with my big ass crazy blaster, I can't beat this guy. So It's the kind of thing where, you know, Deckard is a hugely driven character, but Mikki actually brought something out when we were watching it that was pretty good. You can tell in a scene in Deckard's apartment that Rachel has eyes that reflect the screen to the point where Deckard is next to her and his eyes also do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And someone says, is that on purpose? I'm sure it was.
Ridley Scott did this on purpose. This was a camera trick that he did, and he would do this like thing where it would shine this special light into the actor's eyes and it would reflect it back red. And he didn't overuse it, but he did want to use it to show replicants. And he said it worked exceptionally well on the owl because their retinas are coated with
they collect light so well.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, he says anybody that's paying attention while watching this movie will understand that Deckard is supposed to be a replicant, but he's also fine with people making their own decision on that. But as far as he's concerned, he is a replicant. Mikki.
Sorry. Yeah, I think, you know, that was like the first, excuse me, the first thing I noticed like of relevance to me last night was when I watched it. And I don't think I ever noticed it before but when his eyes were, I'm like, and I said to Tony, I'm like, can we rewind that? Because his, you know, why his eyes are just like hers. And he was like, oh yeah. And then he read something, but like the scene, and I remember saying to him last night, the scene when, you know, when he gets arrested and they take him in and he's eating the noodles and there's so many people. And it was like, and I said to him, are they supposed to be in like Tokyo or something? And he said no. He's like, I don't think so. I think it's supposed to be New York or LA. He's like, but they're just trying to show you what a melting pot that it's become. Because it's just like, oh God, I don't know if I could survive in that. Like if it was like that now, I don't know if I could do it. That's just too.
Mick has trouble staying at Walmart for more than 20, 25 minutes at a time, or she gets so overstimulated. It's like scanners where her head's going to explode. And so it's bad. Sometimes we have to rush outside and take a few deep breaths and then leave.
Oh
'Cause,
my
you know,
goodness. Well,
she's-
yeah, I mean, she makes a good point because it's very Asian in some
Yeah.
areas, and then you
Mhm.
go into that police station, and it looks like an old train station.
It's
Right,
Grand Central
it
Station.
looks like Times Square or
It
It's
can't
New
be Grand
York
Central Station because
sorry.
it's Grand Central Station is in New York, honey, not
it's
LA.
shot. It's that scene is shot in Grand Central Station.
Oh, they shot
Oh.
it there.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's why it looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the
Interesting.
fact too, because the police are supposed to be, you know, the pinnacle of power and technology and whatever. And you go to see Bryant's office, and it's like a throwback to the 1930s.
Yeah.
It's held together with baling wire and duct tape
Yeah.
and, you know, goofy
It's-
old
it's-
shit. It's so not updated.
Yeah.
It's
But then
exactly
again, neither
the-
is Bryant, so it works nicely with that.
It's exactly the same scene from Mad Max when they go to the Hall of Justice and, you know, Goose's killer is being tried and, you know, the police station headquarters is just nothing. It's just dilapidated ruin, basically.
Yeah, it's Frenchie's
at this
apartment
point.
where he's watering
Yeah.
the plants, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's dystopian future, you know, everything's broken down.
Yeah, I don't
And
like it.
I would move into Decker's apartment tomorrow and live in this city. It's my dream. I love it.
My only problem with Decker's place is, does he not own fucking curtains? Because every shot in there is
He has a
bright light
piano.
through the window and shit and shadows and weird stuff and
Oh,
sirens
it's
and noise
so
and
dirty and just like, dude, wash a dish. God damn. All right.
Sebastian.
So Decker goes to Tyrell headquarters. While Deckard awaits Dr. Tyrell, he's welcomed by Rachel, a beautiful woman, and Tyrell's personal assistant. Dr. Eldon Tyrell appears and questions Deckard about the Voight-Kampff test, doubting its ability to distinguish replicants from humans. Tyrell offers Rachel as a test subject, saying he wants to see a negative before he provides a positive. Deckard asks Rachel over 100 test questions before the VK machine finally alerts him that she is a replicant. Deckard is surprised because it usually only takes 20 to 30 questions. Tyrell reveals that Rachel is unaware that she is one. Replicants may become emotionally unstable because of the short time they have to have their basic experiences. Rachel is an experiment, and she has been designed with implanted memories. The memories serve as a buffer for her emotions, which allows better control of the replicants. So I find that really interesting that, you know, they realize that they're freaking out because they know their life is ending and they haven't had a chance to live it, do everything. So now, like, oh, well, I've already done all this shit. Well, technically you didn't, but they don't know that. Seems a little backhanded, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love this whole scene. These are some of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, you know, coming up to the Tyrell building. It's stunning. This is stunning model work with, you know, hand painted scenes again, like the intro of the movie, but even better because now we're getting the Tyrell pyramid. The shot of once they're inside, it just gets better. The owl, amazing. Rachel, amazing. Her outfits. The way they lower the lights in the room, it's too light in here, and the sun goes down. Oh, it's all so good. This is over the top style, and I just love it. Tony, what'd you think of these scenes?
yeah, absolutely. I think that when you first see Tyrell's office, I looked out of something from Gladiator or Roman Legion, maybe Ben-Hur. It almost looks like he's looking out over the view into the town square in, you know, 800 BC, not, you know, 2050 or whatever year it's supposed to be set in, 2019, whatever it is. Because it throws back to like he's a pharaoh in Egypt or he's a Caesar in Rome, where he's looking out over his people, if you will, because he's that powerful and that elite and that, you know, just well-to-do kind of guy. Even to the point where he's in the bed. You know, the bed is not opulent, but he's consistently in white, all white pajamas, silk pajamas, and that crazy robe. And he goes to answer the door, and he's this weird, odd guy that just fits perfectly because it's, you know, it's not, oh, the hour, and then all of a sudden he hears about the chess game, and it's all's forgotten. I gotta take care of business. So they just do such a good job of just kind of incorporating all this stuff into a reality. Even, you know, a reality that's not perfect by any stretch, but it's the idea that, you know, it's pretty awesome. And I love the fact that, you know, the minor scene where they go into the, I guess it's like an eye clinic with the Asian guy who's in kind of like a space suit that keeps him warm because the entire place is like cryogenically frozen to whatever temperature to keep the eyeballs and the optic nerves like viable. And they need to get information, and the guy literally is like freezing during the thing, and it's like, you have all this technology yet you can't figure out how to fix, you know, certain basic shit that people should be able to live better. So it's a great juxtaposition. It's really, really well done.
Yeah.
I find it
Called-
interesting too, like, because when I see the Tyrell Corp, especially the inside where the owl is and everything, it makes me think of Stargate. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
like when
Okay.
you watch Stargate, you get that same kind of vibe from being inside the pyramids and things like that. And just,
Yeah.
it makes me think of that.
Well, Tony, like you said, though, this is just like today. You know, I mean, you've got guys like Elon Musk can spend, you know, $50 billion to take his buddies up to the edge of space, but there's people that can't eat, you know?
Right.
So,
Somewhat. My only difference is that, you know, how do we say this? Elon Musk, I think, is an oddity. I would say more like Bezos or Bill Gates or one of these, because they don't walk among the little people, where I
Yeah.
think Elon does stuff because
agreed.
he relates to people better. He didn't buy X
Right.
to become wealthy. He
Right.
bought X because he wanted to give the middle finger to the
Yeah.
powers that be and say, fuck you, free speech is important. And I'm going to show you by spending $44 billion how important it is to me.
Right,
So
but-
he's the oddball, but yeah, you make a good point there too.
Yeah.
You know, Tyrell is and Tyrell freely associates with everybody. He never gets hot under the collar that he's being interrupted or that, you know, the replicants and Roy come back to see him, because he's such a logical kind of, I'll deal with it all as it comes and it'll all work out kind of guy. He never even gets upset. Most rich people are assholes to the point where they would call security and they would all be thrown out or whatever. He lets it all go. He's good with it.
Yeah. Out of all the big billionaires on the planet, I think Elon's my favorite. But again, if all the richest of the rich just put a little together, we could all live better. It's amazing. Mickey, what do you think?
Right. And you know, the best part too, if you think about it, it's only good for them, because without consumers, producers are nothing, and vice versa.
Right.
But
Right.
if you don't throw a bone every once in a while, you're just gonna get what you get.
I agree. I think this, you know, that scene in his office was so like visually stunning. It was just so well done. Her outfits are crazy cool.
So
I
good.
liked her style. The shoulder pads were, you know,
It was
I
the
just-
80s.
yeah.
Oh,
But like
that
honestly,
cobra like hood on her coat.
Yes.
Oh my god!
Every
that
jacket,
thing.
every jacket she
Oh.
wears is as tall as her hairdo. It's
I'll
wild.
tell you why. I'll tell you why you guys loved it so much a little later on, because there's a story behind it.
Oh, okay.
I just remember. I even remember like the first time I saw this, and then it just kind of made it better last night. I remember watching her and thinking it's literally like she's staring off the camera reading a cue card. Like
Mm.
she is such a crappy actress. Like
Well,
she really is.
to her
Like,
credit, she is a robot per se, but still.
I mean, she's like that in everything. Do you know what I mean? Like she's
yeah,
just
well, but
horrible.
she didn't get hired for her skill sets.
And I just like every scene she was in, I think it could have been a better scene if it wasn't her. Do you know what I mean?
I
Tell us how
disagree.
you really feel, Nick.
I love Sean Young, and I
Ugh.
loved her in this role. And I thought that her acting actually in these scenes were so good, because the difference between her and Leon in his opening scene is that she doesn't know she's a replicant, so she feels so much more human to me with her delivery. And I thought it was really good. I thought it was really good. But that's why it's called art. That's why it's a movie. Good. Keep it going.
That's why it's called art. He says, "Holy shit!" All right.
You got to hit the A. It's
Oh
odd.
my
Odd.
god.
Just
I
odd.
did.
It's okay.
Deckard proceeds to Leon's last known address. There he finds a stack of family photographs as well as a scale from an animal. Not far away, Roy Batty is waiting on the streets for Leon to return from his apartment. Leon appears and tells Roy that there were policemen there and he was unable to retrieve his photographs. Was there men? Police?
Police.
Men?
Yeah,
was
you want to talk
awesome.
about great delivery?
Oh.
Everything Rucker Hauer says in this movie is great delivery.
It's so good. All right, so Roy is perturbed, but takes Leon with him to a shop called iWorld, owned by a Chinese man called Hannibal Chu, who engineers replicants' eyes for Tyrell. Removing Chu's thermal coat, Batty tortures him for information as he freezes to death. The only information they get is that JF Sebastian might be able to get them closer to Tyrell. You feel bad for this old dude. He's just doing his thing, and he just happens to be a weak link in the supply chain.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great, kind of bringing together of the concepts. Weak link in the supply chain. I like it. Nicely
He
done.
is.
Yeah, well, and nothing personal, but it gives you a great sense of who Leon and Roy really are.
Yeah. Well, see, so like when you guys were talking earlier about like, why don't you just let them die, blah, blah, blah. I think that that's part of it is like they're with an agenda and they're willing to kill people to get to their agenda. So
Right.
the point
Everyone,
of sending,
if that's what it
yeah,
takes.
the point of sending Deckard after them is to try to stop them before they kill too many people, I guess.
Yeah. So
Or
this
Tyrell,
scene,
one or the other.
Yeah.
this scene in when Harrison Ford goes into Leon's hotel room, Harrison Ford wasn't on set that day, so that's actually Vic Armstrong, Ford's stuntman. And Scott said, "Let's just shoot it and see if we can, if we can get it to slip past." And it did. And to this day, he never told Harrison Ford. He was just like, fuck it, shoot Vic. But I do love that we get to see Deckard do a little detective work here. It's
Sure.
fun. It definitely adds to the character a little bit. We get the snake scale, we get the photograph, which are both great clues to keep him going on this little, investigation, and both pay off pretty cool later on. We're going to get this photograph analyzer machine that is so forward thinking. It's so like, iPhone, the way you can move around the picture. It's so cool. And poor Chew, whatever the guy's name is.
Yeah, Hannibal
We
Chu.
we see Roy and Leon. They're enjoying the cat and mouse game with Chew. They're toying with him, and they know they're going to ultimately kill him, and then they're going to set the trap for Sebastian. And all of the replicants, when they're playing cat and mouse with human beings, they're looking at each other and giving each other glances that are really menacing, and it's really, really good physical acting. And we're about to get some of the best, because between Daryl Hannah and Rucker Hauer, they play some of these faces off really good. Yeah.
Are you going to direct it to anybody?
So we've only done 80 of these. So then you say, Mickey, what were your thoughts on this scene? But since you haven't figured that out yet, I have to continually call people in for their opinions. See, how this works is you read the scene
You're
off,
a
right?
co-host. You're
Listen,
a co-host.
you read,
I'm reading
you
everything.
There it is.
Listen.
You read the scene off, right? And then
I read the scene off, and then you take it, and then you pass it off.
All right, Mickey, talk about the scene if you dare. Hotel scene, frozen eyeballs. Go.
Okay, all I'm gonna say is the frozen eyeballs skeeved me out when I was younger,
So gross.
and they skeeve me out even more now.
Oh, whatever.
I don't like it.
I was
that
very
was-
surprised they didn't eat one just to fuck with the crowd.
Me
and be like
too.
dangling it and go,
Me
"Nom."
too.
I love it.
But I will say that I thought that was such a cool scene. And I said to him, I'm like, why does he have all these hoses in this jacket? And Tony's
Yeah.
like, maybe for heat.
Yeah,
Like,
I love
oh.
my wife, but reality sometimes has trouble setting in with her.
So that scene, they were freezing that room down to get the mist out of their mouths to show the cold, but the lights on the set kept heating up the room to where he couldn't get that effect. So that's why that's shot so darkly. He was like, "Fuck it, shut the lights off, freeze the room up, and then quickly do the scene." And that's what they did to get this.
Oh,
to get
that's
this
really
effect.
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
Delynn, keep reading.
I believe the word darling needed to be thrown in between those two phrases.
Darling, now is where you read.
Nicely done.
Rachel comes to see Decker. She's upset that he thinks that she's a replicant. He recites a few memories to her that only she should know because they are actually Tyrell's niece's memories and not hers. He offers her a drink, but she leaves still upset. Pris is walking through the rainy streets of LA, and she hides under a pile of debris and waits for JF Sebastian to come home. She pretends to be scared of him, drops her bag and runs, sticks her arm through his freaking car window, and he doesn't think that that's strange, but okay. When he calls after her and offers her to come back for her bag, she claims to be lost and has nowhere to go. And so, of course, he invites her in. First of all, they did Daryl Hannah so fucking dirty with that wig. Oh my God. That
Loved
thing
it.
is a dust mop. It's disgusting. It's terrible. She's supposed to be a pleasure model, and she's got that. No,
Dude,
no.
she's been on the run for presumably a couple of weeks now, living in trash on the streets, nowhere to go. It rains fucking 24 hours a day there.
That was
what do
a
you think her hair
blonde
is going to look
clown
like?
wig.
Not only that, but honestly, she spray paints her eyes with an airbrush in black paint. So she's
Loved it.
contrary to most fashion sense
That was
at this
I
point.
agree with you, Dylan.
The wig was awful. It was
Okay,
awful.
but I think that's the point. She's not supposed to look the role. She's trying to look
But
the way
she was a
Chris wants to look.
pleasure model. You're
Fucking
supposed to look
Right. What
pleasurable.
was is also the operative term. These are people who are now sentient in their, or people, replicants who are now sentient in their abilities. And
Gotcha.
they're not on the program, bro. You don't get it. They're not supposed to kill other people. They're supposed to do dirty jobs and live their life and die. These people are all on their own doing their thing because they're pissed off and they're going to get answers.
So
Dude,
she's
you
on her
could've-
own doing her own thing, and there's not a single bottle of shampoo anywhere. God damn
No,
it.
no, there isn't. And I'll tell you what, you could have shaved Daryl Hannah's head and I still would have banged her. All right, so let's do this. So let me
Okay.
tell you why you guys love these outfits so much. So costume designer Charles Node found a trove of Greta Garbo's coats and brought them to Ridley Scott for Rachel's use. So this
Aha.
was a lost trove of outfits from Greta Garbo that they found
awesome.
on a
Nice.
in a set room, and they
That's
brought
awesome.
them in. And specifically, this dress that she's wearing when she comes to see Decker is one like screen used dress from Greta. So I thought that was really good.
That is very cool.
Yeah, that
Daryl
is-
Hannah actually seriously injured her arm in the scene you're talking about when she put it through the window. She finishes the take, and you can actually see the actor that plays Sebastian like looking at her arm while they're finishing the scene. Like, are you okay? She finished the scene, but she had chipped her elbow in 8 places, and it actually held up her shooting. She was very injured.
Really?
Yes. And Scott said the actor who played Sebastian was playing himself. He goes, this is exactly who this guy is. It's exactly how he talks. It's his mannerisms. He goes, he didn't do anything for this role. I just said, do you, which was pretty interesting. And like I said earlier, Pris feels so dangerous in this scene because she's playing very like, little girl, little doll, like meek and, hurt. But, when he's not looking at her, she's making faces at him like, I'm going to eat your soul.
Yeah.
And then, he says,
Uh-huh.
I'm a genetic engineer. Do you know what that is? And she goes, no. And she's lying and she knows exactly what the fuck it is. It's so good. And then, he says, you have friends? She goes, I do. And I'm going to tell them where I am in the morning. And he goes, oh, like, he's like, oh shit, I don't want to have a house party with your crazy friends.
You certainly do not.
And at the end of this scene, Decker's going to have a memory. It's not a dream. So he's leaning on his piano and he's playing a couple of keys and he's thinking about a unicorn in the woods. So this isn't a dream. It's just a memory or a thought that he has in his head. And this is where Ridley Scott says, if you're paying attention here, this is going to pay off at the end of the movie. And it does. And I'd never seen this version of this movie before. I've always seen like the originals. So I had not seen this,
Yeah,
dream
I think it was
sequence.
only in the director's cut.
Yes.
Right.
And apparently Ridley Scott did this because he was going to make Legend next with Tom Cruise. And he wanted to like test the unicorn and see how it would look on film before he did it in his next big movie. And he said, fuck it, I'll just throw it on the budget of Blade Runner. And he put it in. And me and Dylan were having a little discussion about this before, where at the end of the movie, without seeing this scene, you think that Gaff is trying to say that Rachel is the unicorn. She's like this Nexus, like 7 or 8 that might live forever. We don't know. She's the unicorn, but that's not what Ridley Scott was saying. Ridley Scott was saying, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Tony.
Right. I actually had to tell Mick that story only because in the way the original Blade Runner is cast, you know that Gaff left the origami. The key is that it doesn't make any sense why it's a unicorn, right? It
Right.
could just be a random character. I don't know. He could have made a little boat or a house or whatever, but it's the idea that if you see that cut, you're absolutely right. So kind of interesting, but sorry, went on a little tangent. Long and the short of the point, I think too that you asked earlier why Deckard gets this job. I think the other key is that let's be real, guys like Gaff, they ain't doing this job.
No.
Gaff's a chess player, and you need a bull. You need a guy who plays checkers. He's just gonna find a lead and fucking carry it out to the bitter end, whether it kills him or not. That's Deckard. He's not a big thinker. He's more of a reactionary. Gaff is, he pilots the car and he wears like this World War II kind of weird getup with the microphone. Again, that composition of old and new. You know what I mean? It looks like a canvas helmet, but it's got 21st century communication ability. So it's just odd, but it's the idea that, Deckard is that old fashioned detective. He's Philip Marlowe. He's Sam Spade. He's whatever, kind of literary comparison you want to give. Whereas Gaff he's NCIS or he's,
Right.
CSI. He's at a different level. And his job is also more to get the promotion. He says that, he's a brown noser looking for a promotion. He's not a guy that gets in with the people and
he doesn't want to get his hands dirty.
Right. And the best part too is you see the guy, he kind of hobbles around on a cane, which I think is also bullshit because in the scene where he actually speaks and not in city speak, but in English, there is no cane and he's walking fine. So, Gaff is a lot of things, but he's not straight up. So
they can't send a human after these replicants. They're sending a replicant after replicants. I mean, and this is going to become obvious a few times. If you ever see Blade Runner 2049, the main Blade Runner in that is a replicant. And you see him go up against another replicant, which isn't as strong, and he kills him, played by Dave Bautista. And then again, later in the movie, he goes after Harrison Ford and they have a battle. And Ford, who is the same Blade Runner we're getting right here, is able to absorb some heavy punishment from the Blade Runner. And the same we're going to see when he goes up against Leon here. He takes some shots and he's hurt, but he's not killed. And, every Blade Runner has a strength. And obviously Decker's isn't strength. It's his, detective skills.
It's more the cunning and the
Yes. So cool. Mikki, please.
I loved Jeff Sebastian so much. I remember loving him when I first saw the movie. I loved all his little friends that he created.
The toys.
I
So
know.
good.
I want to live in his apartment. I love his house.
kind of spooky, dear. Not impersonal. Spooky as shit.
I love it. So good.
No, not spooky. So cute.
Really? He's got a fucking monsoon. There's holes in the roof. I mean, really not attractive.
I
Just
loved
bizarro
his place.
land.
I
Come
loved
on.
his place. I loved him. I loved him as a character. He was so endearing. And as soon as she's like, oh, I'm hungry, Sebastian. I'm like, you fucking bitch. You're going to fuck this guy so bad. You know what I mean? I understand what she's doing. And for a replicant, she's pretty badass. But Sebastian, I just love him so much. And so I feel like he's the underdog and he just got hosed in this fucking whole deal.
I wish they had let him live. I do.
Me too. And
I wish
honestly,
they had
I feel like he actually was starting to, at least the first day, thought maybe that something could happen with him and Pris.
Oh yeah.
And then Roy shows up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that
she's playing on that.
Yeah, that kind of broke my heart a little bit for him. And I'm really bummed out. And I totally forgot that they killed him. And I was really upset that they killed him. So
yeah. We don't see it. It's off screen, but it is. There's some exposition that says, his head was squished.
Well, I mean, there's not even exposition when they say that Tyrell's body's been found as well as JF Sebastian. So
Right.
He's dead.
That's
Mhm.
exposition.
Yeah.
That's
I just feel bad. I loved his character so much, and I loved everything about him. And I hate, even though I know it was obviously crucial to the plot and that's what they do, I hate the way they totally manipulated him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely.
All right. So, in his apartment while drinking, Deckard analyzes one of Leon's photographs in a scanning device that he finds that a girl, who's probably Zora, is visible in a back room. Deckard notices that she has a prominent tattoo on her face and neck of a looped serpent. In Chinatown, he learns that the scale from Leon's apartment is snake, not fish. And after a quick stop into the snake shop, learns that the snake was made for Taffy Lewis, a nightclub owner. At the nightclub, he finds that Zora poses as an exotic dancer named Miss Salome and uses an artificial snake during her performances. After the show, Deckard poses as an irritating union representative, claiming to investigate abuses by club owners who take advantage of their female employees. Zora sees through Deckard's ruse, because it's really easy to do, and beats him violently until she is disturbed by other dancers entering the room. She runs, trying to hide in traffic. Deckard gives chase and eventually shoots her. Zora crashes through several plate glass windows and falls to the street dead. Unfortunately, Leon is watching from not very far away. This scene is so visually stunning, so well done. The breaking glass, the neon lights, the blood on the clear raincoat, how artificial she looks when she's decommissioned and they turn her over and her body looks stiff. It's so robotic. This might be my favorite scene in the whole movie, just because it's so beautiful. That artificial snow, just gorgeous. The whole thing's beautiful.
Dude, Taffy Lewis is, for half the budget they probably did the Cantana scene in Star Wars. This looks like what I wish that looked like on Tatooine. Like I wish, or not Tatooine, on Luke's home planet. Which one?
Yeah, Tatooine.
Okay, yeah. So when they go into that bar, this is like legit, man. This looks like that. It's so good. I love this photo analyzer machine, like I said. And Ridley Scott said, he knows this was like, zooming in on the mirror and getting different angles. He goes, it would never work. He goes, but it was just so cool and I loved it. It was great sci-fi, so I used it. I hated Harrison Ford in these scenes. It's so bad when he goes into that stupid geeky voice and he's slipping in and out of the voice. It's so stupid. It feels like he's really trying to fucking tank the scene. It feels very unprofessional. And he asked this stupid question. Were you asked to do anything lewd or unsavory to get the job? She's fucking been hired to fuck a snake on stage. And you're worried about fucking,
Yeah, she's basically wearing baubles that are glued to her body with no clothes on, and you're trying to ask her if she's been taken advantage of.
Yeah, and you're looking for peepholes. She's fucking working in a strip joint where she bangs a snake on stage. What do you need a peephole for? She's standing right there.
There's not a lot left to look at, if you know what we're saying.
Right. And Ridley Scott was not happy with the original scene of Zora going through the glass. In the version we watched, it's not a problem because by then the technology existed. So he actually called the original actress back in. She was much older than when the movie was originally shot, but her face still looked the same. So they did her up and they just shot this facial scenes and superimposed them over the original film. And it's funny because he hated it, because if you watch the original version, it's a man. It's a stuntman going through the glass, and it's obvious. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea. So learned something new today.
I still think for the time and the technology, it is a masterful scene. And it's to the idea, too, that it doesn't need to be incredibly kind of graphically. It doesn't need, industrial light and magic to make it very powerful and poignant. And every death scene should be so good, and movies would be better all the way around. But it's a hallmark for the film.
Did you guys catch the look on Zora's face right before the other strippers come in when she's just about to kill Deckard?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
she's
her
insane.
face is savage. It's savage. It's like, you can feel her rage. And oh my God.
All of them do a great job. Even Rutger Hauer, when he's killing Tyrell, he's like this wild fucking animal, and his mouth is open and he's like, you thought he was going to bite into his face and just rip it off Buffalo Bill style.
Yep. It's so good. So good. All right. Mikki, anything on that?
Agree. I just remember that was another one of those memorable scenes, like I just going through the plate glass, just covered in blood. It was just, and that outfit was badass. Come on.
Yeah. And the hair dryer. How good was that hair dryer?
Oh,
If I could just
Oh,
stick my head into a
I want
bubble,
one.
it would blow dry me and I could just leave.
So
Amazing.
good.
Well, you know the
Oh,
weird part too. It reminds me of those old school hair dryers from the '60s where you would sit in it and then the half bubble would come
Yes.
down
Yeah.
over your head. Except this one has a hole and it's like a 3/4 bubble, and you just insert yourself into it. I'm
Well,
like,
think about it. When this was taped, or done, that wasn't that far removed from the 60s. It was like,
sure,
what, 83?
yeah. I mean, it was
So-
just a better take on current technology, if you
Yeah.
will.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they still use those if you go to the hair salon. They still stick one of those things on your head.
Oh no, I
do
believe they
think
call
so.
that the coiffure shop. If you go to one with that, it's not a
Nice.
salon. That's different.
Oh, my
Nice.
goodness.
All
All
right.
right. So Bryant arrives and informs Deckard that Rachel has run from Tyrell Corp, and it's on him to find her too. As he leaves the scene, he sees Rachel and follows, only to be waylaid by Leon, who begins to beat him with intent to kill him. Rachel picks up Deckard's fallen gun and kills Leon. Deckard takes her to his apartment, not sure where else to take her. Rachel has accepted the truth about herself. She asks Deckard if he would hunt her too. He says he won't, but somebody else will. Deckard falls asleep and Rachel starts playing the piano. Deckard wakes up and there's some dubious consent romance here because I don't, it's gross. So there's
phrased.
also, a huge, they expect you to really, really, really suspend your disbelief here because she pulls her hair out of that super austere coif that has been like molded to her head.
Like
And
a
she's got
perm.
perfect ringlets around her face. I'm like, that's
So
not-
beautiful.
But it
That's
goes
not-
from the ringlets to like this like giant fucking
Afro.
1970s afro.
Well, I think that happens after they have sex. So,
Yeah.
bedhead.
All right. So let me talk about these scenes. So first of all, you notice when Leon goes to kill Deckard finally, he goes to the eyes, the same way
course.
that Tyrell is
Yes.
killed. So this is something, it says something about the eyes. And I think it's because the eyes give you away and they maybe, I don't know, whatever it is. But I liked it, that it was a thing.
Yes.
And Scott said that the actors felt very uneasy about the love scene and that he was never really happy with the scene and he doesn't like to see his actors uncomfortable during the shooting of a scene. But he felt like the scene kind of got an unfair knock because everybody just assumed that Deckard was a human and Rachel was a replicant. And in Scott's mind, that wasn't true. They're both replicants. And Rachel has been coddled by Tyrell, and she's never had an intimate relationship with anybody. The only intimate relationship she's ever had is a memory she had of, you show me mine, I'll show you yours. So Ridley Scott said what he was trying to do was he was trying to say that Deckard understood that she liked him, which is why she kept coming around, and that she wanted this, but Deckard had to kind of bump her into that mode a little bit. And once he did, she said, put your hands on me, and she consented and it went forward. But he was never happy with the scene. He said it didn't play the way that he wanted it to and that it was misunderstood by moviegoers. But one scene in this that really, I think it had to be there because this love story between Deckard and Rachel kind of isn't playing very well because the actors don't like each other. And we're going to get this scene that feels kind of rapey. And you just don't understand why they would want to leave together at the end. But when she says, I don't know if I know how to play piano. And he says, I think you play beautifully. And you get this tender music and you get this tender moment and you really feel some warmth between the two characters. And from this moment on, I don't question the relationship anymore.
He can't afford curtains, but he has a piano in his dumpy
Yes, he
apartment.
does. Yes, he does.
As you can tell, Mr. Jinx thinks it's rape and he doesn't like it.
It wasn't rape.
Mr. Ding.
It was replicant sex.
Ew.
They were trying to replicate, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah, I don't like the scene. It bums me out. It feels weird and just maybe it's the on-screen non-chemistry that's the problem for me, but I don't
Zero
like
chemistry. They hated
None.
each other. They
it.
hated
I can
each
see
other.
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think it's generally good because it also ties back into the statements that Deckard makes when he calls himself sushi and says his first wife said he was a cold fish.
Mm.
But it's so bad that you're like, fuck, if that's cold fish, dude, you're a frozen fish. You're fucking dead. because that scene is brutal and it doesn't do much for the film other than the fact that I think it shows you that Deckard's definitely a replicant, just because he's got all the old photos of people that he wouldn't even know, and it shows you that tie that they have, and that's why he's so good at using the what do we call it? I guess the machine that allows him to tear down the photo and see kind of deeper into what's going on, is because he's an aficionado of that set of memories.
Absolutely. It's yeah. Yeah, it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. Well, I was gonna say Harrison Ford he felt like such a crybaby. Like it just felt like he was pouting on the set of the movie. And it doesn't hurt the movie because I love Harrison Ford as Deckard, but I just imagine what he could have done with this role if he was like fully invested in it and wasn't trying to sandbag this movie, which he definitely was.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, let's see here. All right, so Pris lets Batty into Sebastian's house. Sebastian can tell they are replicants. Batty tells him that Pris is going to die and he needs to speak to Tyrell in person. They coerce Sebastian to help him. He brings him to Tyrell Tower. He uses the chess game they're playing as an excuse to speak with him. Tyrell allows them in. Batty tells him that he wants more life. They discuss several methods that could be used but are futile. He tells Batty he's the prodigal son. Then Batty kills him by crushing his skull because, oh boy. Then he kills Sebastian off screen. The scene in Tyrell's house is, it's sad because he seems to care, and you think that like almost if he had the ability he would help, but he doesn't have the ability, and
right.
It doesn't matter anyways. Batty still kills him. So
yeah, dude, these scenes in fucking Sebastian's apartment when Roy finally shows up, these scenes between Rutger Hauer and Daryl Hannah are magical. They're charming. They're being very charming, and they're also being very complimentary towards Sebastian. You're our savior, the only human that would help us. Oh, I love a man that stays put. These are some really beautiful toys you've created, and they're making him feel like, he's on Team Replicant and he's fine. He's going to be okay. But they're shooting looks at each other like, we're going to tear this guy apart like a rag doll. Don't even worry about it. And while they are manipulating and muscling Sebastian to do their bidding, it's really, really good. And then when we get to Tyrell's, we get this exposition between Tyrell and Roy that is a perfect mix of science and poetry. And Rutger Hauer is going to deliver some poetic speeches during this movie that are fucking money. And you get two different versions of this. I want more like father and I want more like fucker. And personally, I really liked it better when he said father. It wasn't as edgy, but that version of this scene is better for me. And what I also really liked is as they come in, they walk in and Sebastian says to Tyrell, I brought a friend. And Roy, the first thing he says before he talks to Tyrell is he looks at Sebastian. He goes, don't move. Like, he's like, just fucking stand right there. Like, don't think you're creeping out of here. Don't move. And at that point, Sebastian is just standing there waiting to die. And he's terrified. And I really liked it. And one question I always asked myself here was, why didn't Tyrell just say, yeah, all right, I'll do that. I can make you live for another 10 years. Let's head down to the lab right now. I'm going to give you a little fucking something to, relax you. And then we'll do the surgery and like shoot him up and cut his head off. I mean, So a couple of questions.
I think maybe ego. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, maybe because I said to Tony, like when he was killing him last night, it's like almost like, father. You know what I mean? Like, so I think maybe Tyrell was thinking, this is my child. He would never harm me. You know what I mean? Like, he would never hurt me. So maybe it was an ego thing.
Yes,
I agree with you. Though. I would have been like, let's go.
Yeah, let's go take care of it right now.
I think the other thing that you see here is that you see a guy, and I hate because of COVID, we use the word science way too fucking much for shit that's not science. Like, don't worry. This thing in this fucking injection is fine. Don't worry about it because science says so. But I think when you see Tyrell, he refutes Rucker Hauer's kind of advances medically by saying, hey, if you alter the genome, we can live longer. And he goes, no, we tried that and this and this and this, and then you get a virus and you're dead. Right.
Yep.
So he's gone through the whole mental gymnastics of how to make these replicants better, stronger, faster, cooler, you name it. Right. Tyrell is truly a scientist. He's gone over this, and it's almost like he's befuddled that he couldn't do better. So, you know what I mean? It kind of eats at him, but it's also the kind of thing where, he makes a religious reference to the concept of, I can't remember the exact parlance, but it's almost like, it's a God reference to say, well, it just isn't meant to be. And Rucker Hauer ain't having it. You know what I mean? He's like, well, that's the way it goes. I'm going to off you because you're not going to give me options. My other thing, Des, is that I think the reason he doesn't use guile and try and get him to somewhere other, where he maybe can get some help, is because he's just not that type. It takes a certain personality to use those skills to say, hey, I'm in a jam. I'll figure something out along the way. But if I can just get out of this room and get him into a better state of mind or frame of mind, and I'll figure something out and we'll get security and we'll be okay.
Yeah,
But
because Des
that's
is a
not-
sneaky bitch, so that's how he do it. Deckard gets sent to Sebastian's house since Tyrell and Sebastian were found dead. So there we go. Pris is waiting there for him, disguised as one of Sebastian's toys. She attacks, but her acrobatics are really no match for his gun. Batty arrives. Deckard waits to ambush him, and he grabs his arm through a wall and breaks his fingers. He tells Deckard to run. The howling, the chase is all very primal. He starts to die, and he's fighting it. Deckard makes it to the roof, but so does Batty. Cinematography in this last scene is ace. The scene with Batty in the center with the fans on either side of him, just beautiful. Deckard's about to fall off the roof and Batty saves him. Of course, the speech given by Hauer is legendary. And then he dies. And Rachel's waiting for Deckard asleep in bed. She's safe, but he knows that they need to leave right away. He gets up and takes her out of the house, noticing an origami unicorn on the way out. Gaff's way of saying he knows Rachel was there and he's looking for her. Or at least that's the way I read it.
No,
I know
what do
you
mean
see it differently.
looking for. What are you talking about? Okay,
No.
that's all wrong. So
Okay, well,
the
that's
whole-
how I always read it.
So first of all, this whole ending is fucking savage magic.
Hang on. Can we
Go.
do this? Delin, can
Sure.
you finish? Because we'll
Oh,
get
that's
into
finished.
it and then
That's
wreck
finished.
it for the next part.
No, that's finished. Go ahead.
Okay. Only because nothing personal, but Des is right. That's not what the unicorn's there
Okay.
about. But
No,
hey,
so this whole ending, like I said, savage magic. Fucking Daryl Hannah looks amazing. She attacks like a fucking Amazon with the flips and the cartwheels, and then the performance she gives, flip flopping on the floor, it's fucking great. Then Rucker Hauer, he sells the anguish and the heartbreak of losing Pris to the point where it's like it's gut wrenching. It definitely gives me the feels, and then he shifts to rage. Oh, he's animalistic. It ends with this chase, and then finally, it ends with him showing humanity. He shows a slice of humanity as he saves Deckard. Maybe because Deckard is the last person. He knows if he saves Deckard, his legend, his story might live on through Deckard. He's the last person that knows about him seeing attack ships burning off the fucking shores of Orion. And it's really neat. I loved all that. And this scene was the last scene shot, and it was actually shot at 5 o'clock in the morning, just as the sun was coming up. And this speech to Rucker Hauer didn't exist. So that morning, he went into Ridley Scott's trailer and he said, "Can I read something to you that I wrote?" And Ridley said, "Yeah, go ahead." So we read it, and he said, "We can use it or not." He goes, "I just thought it was pretty cool." And Ridley Scott was like, "You better fucking believe we're going to use it." And they did. Thank God. It's amazing. And this was the final death blow to Harrison Ford. Rucker Hauer just said, "You loser. You didn't even show up for this movie. Now I'm going to show you how it's done." And he read this speech in front of him, and he's like, "This is fucking like commitment to the craft, pal. Just fucking lay there and be a loser." And Delin, here's how we're going to answer this. So at the end of the movie, when Deckard goes to find Rachel at his apartment, he goes in, he finds the origami unicorn. This is representing that Gaff has been there. He saw Rachel sleeping. He has opted to let her live. He's opted to let Deckard live. He wants them to go together. And the unicorn is his way of telling Deckard, you are a replicant. I know I've seen your case file. I know you dream of unicorns. I know you think of unicorns. This is an implant, just like the spider outside the window of Rachel's house. This is somebody else's memory, not yours. And I thought it was fucking brilliant. And Deckard says to him, too bad she won't live, but who does? He's saying, go get your woman, get the fuck out of town. And by the way, you're a fucking replicant. P.S. Goodbye. End of movie.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
even to the idea of what is a unicorn? A unicorn is a mythical animal, and that's what Deckard is, because he's one of the few replicants that doesn't realize what he is.
Yes,
You know
and
what I mean?
he said,
has no concept of himself.
yeah, and you
Not
get
only
that
that, but
line.
You can also look at it from the idea of essentially, if Deckard didn't tell Rachel, she would be the same way because she believed she was a human. So she
Yeah.
also kind of fits that mold, if you will.
And there's
Anyway,
no way
yeah,
that there's no way that was an accident that the line is in earlier in the movie. How can it not know what it is? You don't know what you are. That's how. And then Ridley Scott says it's up to you to decide more. The question isn't whether Deckard is a replicant. The question is, what nexus is he? And Ridley Scott says, we're to believe that maybe Rachel and Deckard are like Nexus 8 or Nexus 9. They could live indefinitely. They could live forever for all we know. So really cool. And that final shot is actually stock footage from The Shining, for when they're driving up to the hotel through the mountains.
Yeah, they didn't.
That wasn't in the version you guys
in
saw.
the version we watched.
Yeah, I was going to say that might have been director's cut too.
No, that's the original movie. Ends with Deckard and Rachel driving through the mountains to get away. They're going north, and it's actually leftover footage from The Shining when they're driving up to the Overlook Motel. So there you go.
Oh, okay.
That scene on the roof, I'll tell you, first of all, I was getting nauseous because anything like that, like, woo, the heights, like,
Me too.
just the thought of like hanging like that, I was like, ah.
Sissy.
But then
Sissy.
that scene with Rutger Hauer when he saves him, and then like I think that's the one. That scene was so necessary because even if you hated that character throughout the whole movie, that one scene, you have so much feeling for that character and those few minutes.
Empathy.
Like, yeah, I was just like, and I mean, I love the character through the whole movie, but that even like if you didn't, that scene made you actually feel for him and be sad that he's now dying. And
It's
no
beautiful.
wonder he wants, no wonder he went to see Tyrell. He wants to live. He wants to, and maybe, honestly, if there was a way for Tyrell to help him live longer or whatever, maybe Roy's not such a bad guy.
No, Mickey.
No, Roy's a pretty bad guy, but the point is that's what Roy is. It's because that's the way he was made.
See,
and I think it's almost like a religious kind of concept to the point of, Roy uses the nail to open his hand up as he's like losing
it's a symbol. It's a symbolism of Christ. I mean,
Right.
it is.
It's either you could go with the idea of stigmata, or you could go with the concept of Christ being nailed to the cross. And then you see the dove flies away when Roy goes, which is cheap and kind of cheesy, but it's
where
Where did he
Right.
get a dove? Where did he get
Who
a dove?
cares? Who cares? Chris Angel.
It doesn't.
made me cry.
Again, you got to just go with the film because it's so great to the idea of even when he's kind of totally out there and he's ranting and lunatic raving and howling and he's singing and he's like, go to heaven, go to hell, and he's making religious references consistently. And then when Deckard starts to fight with him, he goes, that's the spirit. Almost to the idea of, is he egging him on because he just wants a good fight? Or is he egging him on because he's saying spirit is in your spirit in the Lord, your spirit of yourself? You know what I mean? So there's huge double entendre. And I think it's the idea that Roy knows if he's going out with a bang. He's not going to go out with a whimper because Roy is larger than life. You know what I mean? And as a character. And I think it's also the concept that Roy puts it together that Deckard is one of them.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
So, yeah.
100%.
So it's the kind of thing where it's almost like, I never really planned to kill you. I just wanted to see if you were able to match with me and stick with me, and I'm the leader and the top of the pops in the Nexus 6 line.
Yeah.
And you hang with me, brother.
Yeah, and he also knows that fucking if he kills fucking Deckard, then they're all forgotten, and he
Right.
wants to
Yeah,
live
the
on in
game's
Decker's
over.
memory.
There's nothing left to be remembered or
I
memorialized.
always, every time I've watched this, I've always sympathized with the replicants and not the humans. I always felt like they were the good guys. They're slaves. They're slaves. They're brought onto the planet for 4 years, and they spend their 4 years just working for humans as slaves, and then they die. And these fucking ones were like, no, it's apartheid. They're standing up for themselves, for their race. They're saying no, and I fucking find them to be the good guys, and I find the humans to be deplorable. And that's how I read this movie. And I loved Roy, and I cried when he died. I'm like, oh, that's tough.
Whatever.
Okay. All right, let's wrap this bitch up.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Let's recast it. I've got some lovely recasts here, some really, really good ones.
Do it.
Yeah, so I would replace Harrison Ford with either a 35-year-old Mickey Rourke, who could easily have pulled this off. He's physical, he's good looking, he plays a great detective, it would have worked. Or even better, a 35-year-old Clint Eastwood from his like Escape from Alcatraz days. He's a serious actor with big chops that's played a detective several times. He was really good looking back in the day. He could have done it. And my last choice for Harrison Ford would be the guy that played fucking Holden. Honestly, this movie would have been better if that guy had played fucking Deckard and Harrison Ford had just made a cameo and been Holden. Because Harrison Ford just didn't care, and it was obvious. So that's what I got. Mickey, what did you do for the recasting couch?
Okay, so surprise, surprise, I would have recast Sean Young's character
Bullshit.
with Jessica Chastain.
Okay.
How do we know her?
Okay.
Oh gosh, she's
He
Mama.
was in Zero Dark 30.
She was a mama.
We reviewed Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would recast Pris with Juliette Lewis.
Oh, God,
Okay, I
no.
like that.
No.
Yes.
You need a big woman. China. I want to replace her with China.
No, I don't think
Kinda
Pris is a
dead.
big woman. Pris is an acrobat.
I would recast Leon Kowalski with Ron Perlman.
Okay.
I don't know him. From who?
Yes, you
What?
do.
What? Come on, man, you do.
Who's Ron
Hellboy.
Perlman?
He was Beauty and the
Yeah,
Beast.
Hellboy.
He was.
Yeah, of all movies I've never seen.
Enemy at the Gates.
Did you
Never
see
seen
the
Hellboy?
Alien
You know
Resurrection?
who Ron Perlman is.
No.
You
I
know
saw
who
it.
Ron
How
Perlman
about what's the TV show he just
Sons of
did with
Anarchy?
Sons of Anarchy. He's the gang leader.
Never seen it.
Okay. City of
Maker.
Lost Children. Did you ever see City of Lost Children?
Nope.
And
Okay.
he has.
Now
ladies
he's
and
just fucking
gentlemen,
with you. Just
he
let it
has
go.
a movie podcast, and he's never seen any of the shit. Doesn't even know who Ron Perlman is. Hasn't even seen Hellboy.
Ron
Okay.
Perlman is fucking badass. Anyway, and my last one, I would recast Harrison Ford with Jeffrey Dean Morgan today.
Who's
You Homer with the Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Who's Jeffrey
Love
Dean
me
Morgan?
Love me
She
some
loves
JDM.
He's on The Walking
JDM.
Dead.
I never heard of him. You're like, I'd replace fucking Harrison Ford with the guy that works at the 7-Eleven down the street from my house.
He's
He
my
looks just
favorite
like him.
barista at Starbucks.
I'd replace Pris with this lady that works at the fucking Dunkin' Donuts. She's wicked tall. Okay, Tony, what do you got?
Woo!
Such a
Okay,
dickhead.
hang on. Let me gather myself. I also took a replacement for Rachel, but I went with a slightly more serious tone. Young Courtney Cox, on the
Ooh.
concept that she's kind of goofy, kind of bitchy, kind of obnoxious, and kind of hot, which is kind of all the things I see in Rachel. And
Dude,
then
that's my-
Deckard,
great
I
pick.
wanted a younger Woody Harrelson, kind of in the mode of like 999, or because he's a burned out cop, but he's not totally out of his prime. And
Dude,
Woody
you going
Harrelson.
Larry
sort of-
David?
what's that?
Larry David?
No, not quite that bad. Not quite that bad.
Larry David is the Blade Runner.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh shit, dude! I love Courtney Cox for Rachel. That is fucking that's money. That is
Thank
money.
you.
Yeah,
Okay, my turn.
yeah.
Oh,
And Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
I can see.
suppose.
Yeah.
I can't see Woody. How about Charles Bronson as the Blade Runner?
Absolutely. No, the best part too, let's be real. Charles Bronson's acting is not verbal, it's physical. And
Yeah.
you could probably develop him into a Blade Runner. Because
Burt Reynolds?
Paul Kersey's perfect. No, because Reynolds is too ham bone, right? He's got to get the one-liners and talk to the girls and be all swishy. And that's
All right.
so not Blade Runner.
We're out of control. Delynn, recast it before. Look at her. She's now pushed her chair.
She's a little beside
7
herself.
feet away from the fucking computer. She's out. She's now just listening to the podcast.
All right. So I
Okay.
recast Harrison Ford with Tom Hardy.
Ooh.
Ooh, wow.
Tom Hardy?
Ooh, I
What
love
do
me
I
some
know
Tom
him from?
Hardy too.
Yeah.
This kid is actually saying he doesn't know who Tom Hardy is.
Well,
No,
what
he's
was-
just doing it to
no.
fuck with you.
No,
he's just
I
doing it
do.
to fuck with you.
What was the last movie he did?
He
Tom Hardy would have been
What's his
Venom.
big one?
he was in Inception, you retard.
Oh, Venom. Oh, yeah, Venom and
Venom.
Inception. For Harrison Ford?
Yes.
I don't like it.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I hate you. I just fucking
All right.
hate you.
I do.
Second host to say that in this week. I think I said, and please welcome Evil Ed. And he goes, I'm so sick of you.
It's just great. And
Okay.
I'm going to add insult to injury with my recasting of Rachel, and I'm going to cast a young Michelle Pfeiffer.
That's fucking
Ooh.
terrible. Okay.
Go
She
die
doesn't-
in a-
nice,
go
man.
die
She
in a
doesn't have the
fire.
look.
Go
She
die in
doesn't
a
have the
fire.
look. She doesn't have the look. She doesn't have the look. Die in a fire. Even Mickey was like,
No,
"Oh,
no,
it's
no.
awful."
If you look at Elvie,
Like, am I trapped in a
where
car,
Michelle
or-
Pfeiffer was perfect, she could have made the transition to Rachel pretty quickly.
There's
you
no
know?
way she's gonna make that fucking
She
transition.
could do it, man. What's the
I don't
problem?
think so. I don't
You're
think so.
crazy.
You literally recast Charles Bronson and
I was
fucking
joking.
Clint Eastwood
No.
and Clint Eastwood, and you're
Yeah,
gonna
he-
fucking tell and
Mickey
give me this
Rourke.
bullshit about
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke was my first
Yeah.
choice. Oh,
Mickey
Yeah.
Rourke wasn't even good as the
Ah,
Marlboro Man for
Your
Harley
recast
Davidson and the
sucked.
Marlboro Man for
I
Christ's
have
he
sake.
was
to say-
great.
Out of
No,
all
I
of them, I like Tom Hardy the best.
As do I.
Okay.
I thought it was an inspired choice.
It's caca. It's
Your caca.
okay. All right.
Welcome to Dysfunctional Date Night, ladies and gentlemen. What do we
I
do with that?
loved the guy who played fucking the Blade Runner in the new Blade Runner 2049. What's his name?
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan
I thought-
Gosling.
Yeah, I thought he was great as a Blade Runner. And I just saw Sylvester Stallone say that if he reboots Rambo again, he's going to put Gosler in as Rambo.
Gosling.
No, thank you.
Yes, he's showing interest.
Yes.
Gosling.
No, thank you.
No, isn't there, what's his name? Sean Paul Gosler?
Oh, from Saved by the Bell?
No, yeah,
No.
well, then he played in, what is it, NYPD Blue and a few others. There's a guy named Gosler. We could sub him in. Sure.
All right, let's wrap this up. We'll give some final thoughts and a rewatch score. So I absolutely love this movie ever since the first time I've seen it. I watch this movie at least once a month and sometimes multiple times a week. And this has gone on since I've fucking seen it. I own it. Stylistically, hands down, my favorite looking movie ever. Soundtrack, favorite soundtrack ever put to film. My rewatch score is a perfect 5, even though Harrison Ford delivered a 3. There it is. Mickey, what do you got?
Again, I agree with you. I think Harrison Ford kind of called it in. He was kind of a wet napkin in this. He was kind of like just there taking up space. I thought it was visually beautiful. I love the soundtrack. I love the score. I love Rutger Hauer and JF Sebastian. And honestly, it's really stood the test of time. Like, you wouldn't know that it came out 30 something years ago. So
Actually, it's 40 now, Mick. Don't want to burst your
crazy.
bubble.
Jesus.
Oh,
Okay.
Sorry, people.
Why you gotta hurt me like that?
I know.
Not that I don't love you all, but we got to do the numbers.
Dude, this would be
So-
basically a silent movie for us in 1980. Like in 1980, if we were trying to watch a movie from 40 years earlier, it would be like fucking a Charlie Chaplin movie or something.
Not quite that bad, but it might be in black and white, so you're not
Oh.
far off.
My rewatch score for Blade Runner is a 4.
4. I like it. Tony, what do you got on Blade Runner?
I think you guys, as usual, because you are such keen minds, have hit all the important points. The movie does age really well. It is still a beautiful kind of haunting and deep film. It's dark, but it's light, but it's violent, but it's a drama, but it's a lot of things, and it's really good. It's not your atypical sci-fi, and it's just well done. Despite the issues that we talked about, the rest of the cast is pretty kick-ass, and I wouldn't change much of anything, but the people are who they are. It is a solid 4.5, and it's super well done.
Hoo-yah! Dylan, what do you got?
All right. So I am taking a couple points off for Harrison Ford's performance, for that fucking wig they put Daryl Hannah in, and for the uncomfortable love scene that just does not work for me at all. And I gave
Are
it
you sure that's not her real hair?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that girl has some lovely hair. That wig is an atrocity to man. It's committed war crimes. It's not okay. So
Okay.
for that, I'm going to give it a 4.135. And when I add all the scores together and divide it by 4, that gives us a 4.40875. So let me see where that ends us up on the list.
You guys are heavy. You go to like the 4th digit. We're not messing around here.
No.
Well, because I like to make sure that we have, like, I try to make it
We
so
don't
we
get a lot
don't
of
have
ties.
a ton of ties,
Ties.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I
Now,
do that.
considering the personalities on this podcast, there's no way in God's green earth there are going to be any ties.
Oh, we've got plenty of ties on the list.
Oh, do you really?
Oh, there's a ton, yeah.
I'm
okay.
surprised. I don't think Neighbors is any of them, but okay.
Such a travesty on that one.
Okay, so this one is coming in at number 19.
I like that out of 80. That's nice. It's in
Yeah.
the top fucking.
It's right under Grandma's Boy and A Nightmare on Elm Street because those two are tied, and it's right above Constantine.
This is way better than Nightmare on Elm Street, or like, dude, Grandma's Boy. Really, Grandma's Boy is above Blade Runner. A
Yeah.
fart joke
All right.
movie is above Blade Runner.
Wait a minute, Des. You run this
Jesus.
podcast. It's got to be somehow your fault.
Please, I gave this a 5. I couldn't have done any more.
Right,
This
but
is
you
below
obviously gave
Grandma's
Grandma's Boy a really high grade too. So
Yes,
maybe
I
in
sure
a moment
did.
of weakness, you fucked up.
I didn't give it a 5. I can tell you
Okay,
that.
well, you
see,
must
you-
have gave it a 4 or higher because
You gave it a 4.51.
oh,
Yeah, not as good as Blade Runner.
What's
but
what's
really
number
fucking
80?
good.
What's the one at the bottom?
The
last
movie at the very
place?
bottom
Streets of
is
Fire.
Streets of Fire with
Oh, God.
1.333.
Holy
Michael
shit.
Paré
Holy
is
shit.
heartbroken.
And the next one right above it is Staying Alive.
Fuck you guys.
What?
Fuck you guys. It's a fucking great movie.
It's
It's a
not.
great movie.
Garbage.
I'll tell you what.
Des, you're going to be an honorary Italian from Brooklyn. You keep talking like this, bro.
Right?
We're going to put you on the Dago Hall of Fame in Brooklyn, baby.
I'll tell you what. If nothing else, it was a great podcast. It was funny as fuck. Dylan and fucking Nikki hated that movie.
Hated it.
Okay.
Hated it.
We will be back next week where we will be discussing the 2004 Dawn of the Dead with Tony.
Oh, nice.
Yes, Tony's original flavor, Tony. Tony's Tales of Terror. It's a lot of
Yeah,
cheese.
I'm
say that
extra
real
crispy,
fast.
baby. Don't forget it.
And Breaking Vinyl, we will be breaking down Jet's debut album. So there you go. Yes. So that's it. Until next time, I just have one question for you. Hey, did you ever see that movie? See you later.
Bye.